So you think you're done mixing the song and then you're ready to export the track, but how do you know it's actually ready? I'm going to share with you 3 different things that pro mixers and mastering engineers do every time before they export their songs. I just want to give you a simple practical checklist that you can use to confidently release your songs and know they're going to sound great anywhere. So let me show you those 3 things that I do every single time before I export my music. All right, so I have this track. It's mixed. I went through a mastering chain, and I think I got it sounding really, really loud and competitive, and I think it's ready to be released. But how do I know? So the first thing a pro is going to do before they export their track is to compare it to a reference. Okay, so this session, I did both the mixing and mastering. It should be at a competitive volume and still sound great everywhere it's played. So to check this, I'm first going to go to my export settings and go to my final limiter, and I'm going to make sure that the output is set to a competitive loudness. Minus 0.2 dB full scale is what I would recommend for this test. And then use a plugin for referencing like Metric AB, but you can also just drag and drop songs that you know sound competitive in the same genre, and then solo them as you are going back and forth between your finished mix and then the reference track. And we're going to listen to changes in volume, stereo width, in general tonal balance between the two. And we're going to make notes if there's anything that really jumps out. Here's another track that I like to use as a reference. This is a bass heavy mix. It sounds pretty good. This mix is bass heavy. It's more of like an electronic heavy rock track. And so it vibes really well with some of my references, which are done by the best of the best mixers out there. There was no weird low end. The top end wasn't too bright. It wasn't too dull. It felt natural being played against these references. And that's what we need to figure out when we're checking our mixes before we export them. Because sometimes there will be a noticeable hole, or you might have a snare that's way too loud, or the vocal might be way too loud, and you'll notice that when you quickly switch between your reference tracks. Okay, so that's number 1. That's what every single pro A-list mixer is going to do before they export their song. Something that I do personally is I do a gut check on that. And I actually use this tool called tonal balance, and this is by Isotope. You can create a spectral profile of your reference tracks. So if you look here, I have that Architect song. I have a whole bunch of other tracks. I also have the Bring Me the Horizon song that we listened to. So it gives us a visualization of the frequency balance of the entire track. So we can play our song, and if it falls roughly in line with the shape that we have, we know that tonally it's going to be very similar to our reference tracks. And also they have this right here where it shows the compression and the dynamic range compared to our reference track as well. If it's right in the middle, the dynamics are similar. If it is more to the right side, we have a smaller crest factor or less dynamic range. And if it shifts to the left side, our mix is a little bit more dynamic than what we're referencing. So check this out. So look at how in line it is with that reference track. It's pretty, our ears aren't lying to us. It actually does have a very similar frequency balance to our references. And you don't need to freak out if all of a sudden it looks weird, like in some areas of the track, right? We have this big hole. But this part of the song isn't representative of the entire track, so don't forget that. So the vocals would fill that in when they come back, which we saw when we had everything going together. So definitely use a tool like that to double check your ears, because our ears lie to us sometimes. Now, the last thing that pros will often do is they will still look at their integrated LUFS and make sure that their levels are competitive with other songs in a genre. We know that by listening to our song with those other ones, it's probably pretty competitive, so we're probably okay, but it doesn't hurt to double check to make sure that we're living around where those references are, okay? These references are extremely loud. If you look here, the average integrated LUFS is minus 5.3. That's crazy loud. This one is minus 6.2. We can just do a quick look at our track and see where it lies, just to make sure it's somewhere around that number. If it's like minus 13, we know that we have something wrong in our output stage and we need to fix that. minus 6.2-ish. We're in the right ballpark for the loudness. Now, I know I said there was only 3 things, but here's a bonus one for you. And another thing I like to do is I'll check the mix in mono. So I have an RME UFX, which allows me just to push a button on my Stream Deck to switch the speakers from stereo to mono. But you can also do it in your DAW. Here I have the ability to change my down mix options from stereo to mono just by clicking this to make sure that when it goes to mono, nothing weird happens. We don't get weird phase cancellation. We want everything to still sound reasonable in mono. I know a lot of people don't listen in mono, but it's good practice just to double check. Still hear everything, so we're pretty good.
In the spiral of you thought you try to stay mindful, but everybody wants to go viral. Can you show me how you
Sounding awesome in mono too. Yeah, this is a good solid mix. Everything checks the box. We're ready to export. So quick recap. Before you hit that export button, when you think you have your song finished and it's ready to go out the door, do a reference check. Pull in some songs that you know sound great anywhere they're played and switch between your mix and the reference mix. Notice if there are differences in the overall loudness, tonal balance, and then also just general volume balance between the elements in your songs and the elements in the reference tracks. The goal is not to match everything perfectly tonally, but if you switch to yours and it feels weird or totally off compared to your reference tracks, you know you need to go back and revisit either the mix or the master. The second thing that you can do is use a visual tool like Isotope Tonal Balance to visually compare your frequency spectrum to your reference tracks. Use their generic genre-based targets and get a generalized target for most modern sounding music. Or you can make your own profiles like I've done here with Bring Me the Horizon. That tool is great as a secondary gut check just in case your ears are starting to fatigue because you've been mixing a long time. I've been there. The third thing you can do is check the overall loudness. I recommend using a LUFS meter on the output bus, and you want to make sure that the loudness is similar to songs in your genre. If you are several LUFS away from your reference tracks, something is wrong. Now, this doesn't mean just go to a limiter and then crush your mix so that the LUFS number matches your reference. That's not how this works. It's telling you that there is something wrong with your mix that is not allowing you to get your song to its maximum loudest potential. And not all songs can sound as loud and as competitive as your favorite songs. They are just arranged differently most of the time, and that can ultimately limit how loud a song can get. Now, if you want to go deeper and you want to learn the dark art of mastering to try to get your songs to sound as loud as possible, I do have a start to finish home studio mastering course that I have available, and it is specifically designed for all the challenges that we have when we're making music out of our homes. I have a coupon code in the description, so go and check that out if you are interested. But you should be within about 3 LUFS from your favorite songs. And finally, I know everybody has earbuds now and they're stereo, but check your mix on mono. If you have a good sounding mix in mono and you compare it to your references and they still sound pretty similar, guess what? It's always going to sound good everywhere it's played. Doesn't matter if someone's listening to your song on some bootleg Bluetooth speaker that outputs everything in mono for some reason. The pros are checking their mixes in mono, and you should too. If you make rock or metal music, I have a free downloadable cheat sheet you can grab in the description as well. Hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you're notified every time I drop a new video. The videos will probably help, so why not hit that button? Let me know in the comments, what do you do before you export your songs to make sure they sound good? My name is Bobby Balo. I'm the mixing and mastering engineer at Rayton Productions. I'll see you in the next video.